using those bullet points actually really focuses people's minds. And like I said, we should be sharing the slides around for people to have like reference materials. I know the time is far spent, and the final segment is Q&A. We'll still manage to retain in like most of the audience since the start of the session, which is a good sign. If people have any questions, now will be the time to post them. I know that there are two questions, and yes, people, please feel free to show your appreciation to the speakers. I think everyone is managed to cram a lot of value into their 15 minutes, so and that can be easy, so I really appreciate it, and also taking out time on the weekend when they rather want to be sleeping or spending time with their loved ones. So we appreciate all your time. I think the first question, yeah, or there are two questions. The first one is to Odinaka. If you're on, Odinaka, are you with us? Just checking. But I think no, but anyone can take this, I believe. So the first one is, how do you write your application to qualify for scholarships? So in fields like public international law for someone coming from corporate law practice in Nigeria. I don't know if any of the speakers can take this, but I'll just go on and read the second question. And if anyone can take the first one, I appreciate that. Do you think it's achievable to apply for a PhD whilst doing your master's, considering the level of devotion applying for a PhD might require? If yes, would you advise a current student starting their master's in September to go about it, ensuring they secure a place before the end of their master's? Kaya, is this something you can take?
Yeah, I
Second
can
one.
speak.
Oh yeah, two
I
more.
think I think it depends on where you're completing your master's. When I went to Columbia, my master's was 2 years, right? So it's absolutely feasible during that period. Whoever asked that question, you're right. PhD applications are intense, but like if you're already a master's student at the university, like someone said, that you want to do a PhD, you should be networking from the go, and you should be thinking about your master's, I guess, work as the foundation of your PhD. So it could be a little bit easier to build on. It's possible. It's not going to be easy, but you're there. And I would recommend actually doing it while you're in school because you actively have the connections and resources. So when you leave, you don't have that many, right? So there's a drop. So yeah, you can do it. It's possible.
No, thanks for that. I know
Just
Ojinaka.
one
Yeah,
question to add there.
yeah.
I didn't do a PhD, but I have friends who did it at Stanford. Is that you gotta find out what school you are because Kaya mentioned, like at Stanford, if you want to do a JSD, most like I think they take only 6 JSD students every year. 4 of them have to come to the LLM and they can open external to two. So you don't have a choice. You have to apply during your 9 month program. So you have to find a way to do it. So it depends on the school. You gotta find the school and speak to people that are there.
Thanks, Rashid and Kaya. Odinaka, I think I have just seen him join. Are you with us now? Odinaka. Yes. So the
Yes.
question, oh yeah, the question is, how do you write your application to qualify for scholarship in fields like public international law for someone with a corporate law background in Nigeria, corporate practice background in Nigeria?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I have to start from the ending of that question. I don't exactly have a corporate law background from
Mm.
Nigeria.
No, I
I
think they're
was,
speaking of themselves. So they're saying, yeah, yeah, maybe I'm not sure if that's the, but yeah, go on, please. I think they have a corporate law practice background.
hmm, okay. Public international law is quite a very large spectrum. It's really large. There are different aspects of it. So I might advise you're trying to fit it within international arbitration because that involves so many corporates and public law principles. So I guess that can work if you try to canvass the case properly for why you want to pursue PhD in an aspect of international arbitration. That also fits within public international law. In general, I would simply say research all the different aspects of public international law. It's a very diverse area, trust me. And I'm sure you're going to, you can find an area that fits within your experience.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think there's an additional, actually, there are a few. So there's one question that's directed to Faye. I'd like to ask Faye about Chivening interviews. She talked about the applications, very well detailed, but how do you prepare for the interviews? Faye, are you on, and can you take that question? No, I don't think Faye's on. I don't know if there's anyone who can take scholarship interviews, Odinaka, if you can, on just maybe using the MasterCard AFOX scholarship as as an example.
Thank you. I didn't do the chefing, so
Yeah,
I'm going just the foundation.
yeah, yeah.
The
No, no,
foundation.
yeah, no. I think yes, they've asked specifically about Chivening, but the question is also about just scholarship interviews. So, are you able to speak to scholarship interviews? Using AFOX as an example.
Yes, for scholarship interviews, a practical direction I can give is to reach out to persons that have done the interviews so that they can give you the questions, the questions you can ordinarily expect to get from the interview. That is what I did in my case. I reached out to a few persons that have done the interview, and they gave me questions that seemed like the questions I later met. I mean, not exactly the same thing, word for word, but you can get that direction on the interviews from persons that have done the interviews. If you have the names of your interviewers, because for PhD applicants, often you are given the names of the assessors or persons who are going to be in the interview. And it is then in your court to conduct your personal research, store those academics and research their work and come there to have a discussion about not just what you do, but what they also do. And I think that might be a succinct and useful advice, if you may.
Yeah, thanks, Danaka. That's helpful. I there's another question on scholarships for MBA programs in the US. So I don't know if either Rashid or Mujib can take this one. So the question is, are there any scholarship for MBA programs in the US? I know you both didn't do an MBA, but if you can, do you advise a transition from law to finance while in Nigeria and gain experience, or can I transition to finance after my MBA to save time?
I think like the first question about scholarships for MBA programs. I don't want to say obviously, but like obviously, yes, I think there are scholarships, right? Like if you there are internal and external scholarships. I feel like many people have spoken about that. This is the field where you gotta do your research, or like about the school. So the first thing is what scholarships are available in this. Actually, I consider them in three buckets. What scholarships are available that are school sponsored, right? That's point one. What scholarships are available that are school affiliated? They may not be school sponsored, but like they're affiliated with the school, like Nike NSC, for example, who is affiliated with Stanford. And then what external scholarships are available, either like by geography or by program, by industry. Like a lot of Nigerian scholarships, you could get like there is I can't remember some of these Nigerian scholarships that are available, but you also have like other international scholarships. There's a Black Heart Scholarship, for example, which is not affiliated with anything, but it can still fund you. So scholarship is really your research. Like if there are some internal smaller things that many people don't know about, just because you have to be in the program to know, that is helpful. People in the program can tell you. But the bulk of scholarships is really DIY. You gotta do your research there. The second point about like whether you transition to finance in Nigeria or after the program, it's a personal question. What do you want to do? Like, I guess it's a question you have to answer. Like, if you want to transition to finance and you're certain that you want to do finance, and that's where your heart and mind, and that's what you want to bet your career on, then the earlier you transition, the better. You don't have to wait and say, oh, I gotta get the MBA and then transition. If that's what you want to do, like, if you mean you want to do finance law, like you want to work in finance as a lawyer, That's a different question, right? And you probably still need to do the LLM for that, or the MLF, depends on where you are, right? But if you want to go into the finance as an industry, you want to be an analyst, you want to be an associate, you want to go into investment, that's what you really want to bet your career on, then the earlier you transition, the better. But it's more of a personal question. It's not a question of like, oh, I can't tell you to change your career. But if you decide you want to do it, then the earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah, no, thanks.
And sorry, just to add one sentence to that. So yeah, for MBA generally, I think they even have more funding than LLMs as far as I'm aware. I know like a lot of Nigerians who were originally practicing lawyers in Nigeria, then instead of coming in to do the, and I mean, there are so many reasons why people do that. Probably maybe they like MBA, or some people actually do it because in some schools the MBA is like STEM, and so that gives them like time instead of the traditional 1 year OPT. They can extend their OPT for additional three years. So some people also do that. Some people decide to come in, for people with law background, they decide to come in for the MBA program because of the funding. So I mean, depends on you, depends on what you really want for yourself. If you really like the business aspect of it, not because of maybe immigration or some money or anything, yeah, you can always transition. And I think for MBA, there you get more scholarship than for the LLM.
Yeah, thanks, Mujib. I think there's another question for you, Mujib, on just practical tips for people who did not finish with great grades. Don't know if you can speak to that. And the other question is specifically for Mujib as well. So to what extent does writing on platforms like LinkedIn or SSRN matter for the social media vetting, or to boost your resume before applying to grad school? I think the social media vetting point is in relation to your visa application. But yeah, so practical tips for those who didn't graduate, you know, good grades.
Yeah. So well, if if you, I mean, uh, well, so like Abdul Rashid said, for the US, it's a bit different from what you get in the UK, for example, where they prioritize academic background and all that. In the US, I mean, I've seen cases of people who didn't really like graduate with first class or strong um, academic background, and they were still able to get into PhD programs with funding. And so what do you do? So it's very easy. If you don't have a good grade, then definitely you have to substitute that with something stellar. You have to think of it. It doesn't so I mean the options are wide and out there. If you don't have a good grade, then yes, then you need to talk about maybe big things that you've done, maybe extracurricular things you've done. Publishing is one of them. You don't have a good grade. If you are able to begin to, you want to do a PhD, you're able to begin to write, you're able to collaborate with leading scholars in the field, or you are able to apply for maybe competitions, some of these things that you can use to address or cure the bad grade. Then you need to do that. With respect to the question on publishing on SSRN, yes, is a good um, start point for you, but you need to understand that ultimately, I mean, it's good. It's a good thing, because I mean, when you do that for a start, you begin to develop your writing skills, and you prepare yourself for something big that would come eventually. So, on the surface level, yes, it's good. It's good if you have it. You can definitely make reference to it, but the impact that is going to have on your application is not that big, because what really matters is, are you able to publish in law reviews, for example, or peer review journals where you send your papers to reviewers, experts in the field, and they review it, then you get published, not like a SSRN. So, but I mean, yeah, you can do that. Might help you to some extent, and you it's okay. For the media one, I mean, yeah, I think I already addressed that point. Yeah, it's a new policy now where they are particular about what you post online, and you want to take note of that aspect as well. Yeah, if you post on SSRN, that's I mean, what we are talking about here is posting something that is political online or something that shows crime or anything. So you are free to make any post. You can make any post about your field. You can talk about anything. You can have a lot of followers. It's not a problem. But the problem comes in when like posts that are controversial, political, religious posts. And so this is where you just have to be observant.
Yeah, thanks a
Just
lot.
one quick thing to add to the
Yeah.
first question was like in the US, like I guess if you I think of grades as a plus. If you have good grades, it's a plus. If you don't have good grades, just deprioritize and prioritize something else. Usually how you think about it, right? So find a way to say your story, what you have done and everything, without necessarily highlighting that you didn't have good grades. So like unlike UK where some schools require the good grades, US think of it as a plus. And if you don't have that plus, still focus on your strengths and make your case.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mujib and Rashid. So on that point, just to add one more thought, I like to say that what the admissions committee cares about is excellence. And if you can demonstrate excellence in other means other than grades, especially in the US, you're likely to get in. I think that's also to Rashid's point. I know of someone who got into Harvard Law who made a tutu in Ife, but was one of the key members of I can't remember the political party that was led by Wole Soyinka, and part of like his story was leading a national protest, against June 12 and something along those lines. So those kind of like very powerful story and very strong impact stories as well can be your selling point. So you need to just find what your excellence story is, and I like that rather than the grades. But yeah, the problem is the UK, like Mujib said, doesn't even give you the chance because some master's program like the Oxford BCL is only open to those with a first class in their undergrad. So the US is probably the best place to apply to if you're looking to show off other things other than grades. The last question, because I'm conscious of time and I'm conscious that we cannot take all these questions. We will try to collate the questions and send it to the speakers if they can during their free time. If they can respond to them, we can also collate those responses and send back to all the participants. I've also seen requests about like practical tips on code emails and application packs. I can have a conversation with the speakers to see if they are willing and able to share their application pack, because it's more useful and helpful to actually see like reference materials that someone has used and that has actually worked. Of course, these conversations are important as well to just sow the seeds in your minds. The final question is to Kaya. And someone is asked that in applying for a PhD, what documents, materials, or information should I prepare before cold emailing a prospective supervisor? Also, what is the typical content and structure of a cold email to a supervisor?
Okay. So what documents should you prepare and what's the content? I'll answer the content. Hi, my name is such and such. I found your work really interesting. Can we chat? Sometimes that works, especially in the US. But also you want to talk about what you know about their work, or maybe name drop who you know. Sometimes that works in the US, if there's a mutual. And then you want to have a good subject line. They get a lot of emails. You don't want to say urgent or anything like that. That's a bit much. But you want to say why you're there and quickly. Keep it short always. So, hi, my name is such and such. This is my expertise, what I can bring to the lab. Can we talk about your expertise? I read this paper, center around that. Now, as far as documentation, your CV, And probably just your CV is the primary thing, right? And understanding your work experiences and the impact you had there. That's a good practice to do, right? Because it's independent work that you're applying for in a master's and a PhD. So you need to understand what you can do independently outside of teams and organizations that you'd be able to bring. So that's what I would tell you to look at and start preparing now and being able to speak to that in your um, maybe do a prospectus, a research prospectus, I would say, or I'm probably mispronouncing that, I don't know. But yeah, so research like mini proposal. Know what you want to do and what you want to talk about before you talk to these people. You have their time and attention for a very limited window. So you want to be prepared in that way. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, no, thank you. I know we've kept some of you since the start of the session. It's now almost 6 p.m., so we've been on this call for almost 4 hours. So really surprised that, like, some people like to say this generation have a very short attention span. I think this is evidence that that is not true. So well done to everyone and to all the speakers. And we, like I said, we will try and go around just to see what we can get in terms of materials, and then we will share with the participants. But yeah, thank you everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, Rashid, Kaya, Majib, and Odinaka, and all the other speakers. And guys, if you can, please show your appreciation to them in the chat as well. I think they've all been fantastic, and they've also given us 4 hours of their precious time on this weekend when it is warm in the US and the UK. I'm sure a lot of them want to be outside to touch grass, but they're here. Well, yeah, thanks all. Thank you, everybody. Okay, bye. Bye, guys.